Hello, 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 hello. My hair is a bit, what is it? It's very regal in a funny way. I tend to do this sort of like curled up fringe to give it more volume, and I love it. But then it's a bit, I don't know why, like Lord Farquaad from Shrek. The Muffin Man, the Muffin Man. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, world. I have finished week 7. Week 7, a week about recovering a sense of connection. And it's been a very busy week. It's been very wholesome and very, I always seem to be fluctuating between, like wholesome new experiences, leaning into trusting the unknown, and then fighting the despair, fighting the hopelessness, fighting the anger. So that's where I'm at the moment. So in this week, Julia Cameron talks about 2 main bits. First one is perfectionism, and the second one is jealousy. So let's start with perfectionism. She says it's a refusal to let yourself move ahead. It's a loop. And then she quotes a Miles Davis person who says, "Do not fear mistakes. There are none." And I've been pondering, I guess, subconsciously, and now reflecting out loud with you about how much of this perfectionist energy I've had in my life. So I've written music for like 3 to 4 years now, like seriously, like without interruption. And it would go in phases. Like I would be super creative for like 3 months and just write 10 songs or potential hits, and then nothing for 4 months. And this has always been the case in the last 4 years. There's always been these chapters of creativity and then doing something else. But what I've noticed is that I have succumbed to the perfectionist shadow when it comes to releasing a product. When I'm releasing a song, I want everything to be perfect around it. The music video and the lyrics and everything has to be neat and tidy. But many artists seem to just get to a stage of fame with just being not tidy and just releasing the stuff, their art, and then when the money comes, then they'll be able to make it even cleaner and slicker. And that's really hard for me, and I think it comes from this perfectionist image of like just, yeah, there's so much preciousness that I give to my art, and that I want it to be super perfect. But as it says here in the book, there are no mistakes. There's no way to make it perfect or not perfect. So that's something that I've been thinking about, and probably my producer is sending me the final product of the first 2 singles, I think this week. And so from there on, I'll be able to know, I think, what to do with them. And then there is the bit about jealousy. And this is like, we're about to enter a vulnerable tunnel. I suffer from jealousy. Loads of it. Really loads of it. And it's quite disabling, and it's quite unsettling. So for the first time in my life, I'm able to see jealousy under a new light. She says it's a mask for fear. Fear that we aren't able to get what we want. Frustration that somebody else seems to be getting what is rightfully ours, even if we are too frightened to reach for it. And then she proposes this exercise called the jealousy map, which was very intense. And I candidly and immediately just went for it and did it. She lets us write down the who's, the why's, and then an action antidote. What does that mean? Who are you jealous of? Why are you jealous of them? And what is an action antidote that you can implement in your life to avoid the jealousy taking the better of you, but actually feeling like you've got agency, and so you can actively do something about that jealous, because that jealousy means I really want that thing, but I'm not able to get it. Whereas Julia says you are able to get it, just be specific and precise about how you're going to get it. And I've never dealt with jealousy like that. I've never even told myself that I was jealous, and it was a really, really vulnerable, really intense exercise for me, because I do suffer from it. I've been deeply frustrated for many years about all sorts of things, because I want everything. I want to be the best at everything, and when I don't have the things I want, I get really frustrated. And I think jealousy is just a symptom of that, of, oh, like the child in me really wants those things. How do I get them? Please, please, please. So I might share a bit of the exercise. I'm a bit like, oh, this is really vulnerable, and really, I'm like, ooh. I've been jealous of a sister of mine. For example, she has a house in Italy, and I've always had this feeling of like, oh, I hate that someone has that and I don't. But then actually the antidote is just buy a home in Italy. You know, I'm from there, and my family just sold all of our properties. We didn't have, I think we had 1 or 2, but they're sold. And so I don't really have a stable dwelling. And I really always felt this jealousy about this specific thing. And I'm like, okay, this is how I can not be jealous of that. I can just make my own house there. I wrote Lady Gaga, and there's quite a few things I'm jealous for, you know, her career, her wealth, her talent. And basically the action antidotes is just to keep doing what I'm doing, like releasing music, investing in my career, working on my voice, studying music, and that will help. Then I also wrote down royalty, because they live in big, luxurious, open spaces near nature, and they don't have to work. They can just be themselves, which I know might sound funny or weird, but I'm jealous of that. And so there was the antidotes where keep working on your craft until you reach that beautiful, wealthy, financially abundant space where you can slow down. You don't have to be in survival mode all the time, which is where I've been living most of my life. And there's a lot of shame and sadness in saying it, because I'm like, no, I don't want that for myself. I want more. But that's just what life brought me and gave me, and I did the best that I could ever. So there you go. This was just a really, really important exercise. Then another quote I'm going to share with you. I don't have a lot of respect for talent, says Martin Ritt. Talent is genetic. It's what you do with it that counts. And I've always felt that talent was this like beautiful gift that made me really special and better than everyone else. And that was a very like ego-based vision of talent. But the truth is that many people are talented. And it really is about what you want to do with that talent that defines you and makes you into the artist that you want to be. And so on the one hand, it's great because it's like, oh yes, agency. It's not just about receiving a gift. It's like what you do with it. But also I'm like, oh, I need to get to work now. It's not as easy as saying, I've got this talent. You know, I'm a songwriter or an actress or whatever. But no, you have to do something about it. You need to fight for it. And I receive loads of rejections weekly because I do self-tapes and I send my music around, and it's just a lot of no's all the time. But I keep going. I don't know why. I haven't given up. It's just because I can't see myself doing anything else. And until I live and breathe, this is what I want to do. And so I'll fight. I'll guess. I don't know. But anyway, she offers this really fun exercise, which is an archaeology exercise. It's about parts of ourselves that we've buried. So all of these phrases we need to complete. And they start with, as a kid, da-da-da-da. And these can be quite, not negative, but there's a lot of pain in these phrases. And so then she says, it's also important to acknowledge our positive inventory. And so there's 10 more after that, and they're all very positive. I'm going to share a few with you so you get to know me a little bit better, and I train the muscle of feeling exposed and feeling vulnerable, I guess. So, as a kid, I missed the chance to. And I wrote, live as a princess. I always dress up as a princess. I always wanted to be a princess. I know it's probably very Disney-induced and maybe patriarchal, but up to this day, I've got this dream of just being a princess. I haven't analysed that yet, like the deeper reasons for it, but it's there. And then living in a big house. I've always really suffered living in small houses. It wasn't like a cavern, but it wasn't enough for who I am. I need space. I love space. Yeah. And as a kid, I lacked, and I wrote down safety and financial abundance and a father figure. Safety has always been a big deal, I guess, as humans. As living mortal creatures, safety is a big deal. But I've always felt, oh my God, something could happen from one day to the other and I will lose everything. Because that was the energy in the house. My father being, I guess, the ghost of the person that he was, had no real anchor in groundedness, in reality. And he was supposed to provide for us. That was his role. And so there was this constant feeling of like, oh my God, the provider is not making us feel safe. Yeah. So that was that. And then, yeah, in my house, we never had enough space and safety. So these are the things I wrote. But then let's do some more positive and lighthearted ones. I have a loyal friend in, and I wrote down many cities. And I wrote a few. I wrote Brussels, I wrote Lyon, I wrote Rome, I wrote London. And I love that. And I want to have more. I want to have more friends all over the world. It's beautiful. One thing I like about my hometown is, and my hometown, as you know, is Rome. And I'm going there in a few weeks. A friend of mine doesn't know I'm going, and I'm surprising her. And I hope she doesn't see this video. I'm sure she won't. And I wrote down, I love how reachable everything is in Rome. You just have a motorbike, a car, and it's just easy to reach places, I guess. It feels like that anyways. And then the sunny weather, obviously. We've had amazing weather in London, but Roman weather is unbeatable, I think. And then the ancient architecture, which I didn't appreciate when I was younger. You know, when you live in a place and you grow up in a place, you sort of take it for granted. But every now and again, in the last 10 years that I've been away, when I would go back, I would just enjoy myself and lose myself in the architecture, which is why tourists come to Rome in the first place. But I just played the tourist card and just discovered so much more of a city that I knew quite well, but there was so much more to find out. And so every time I go, I'm like, I'll just drive to this place by myself and then just walk. And I think that's just amazing, and I can't wait to do that. And then writing my morning pages has shown me I can, and I wrote down, unleash a lot of my anxiety. I can free myself up from the heavy weights of existence. Yeah, I mean, I was probably quite, life was feeling intense when I wrote that. But yeah, like morning pages, I'm like, okay, I sit down, and it's a freaking chore. Like I've done it for now, 7 weeks, every day almost. And write, you know, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of focus, but I do find it that I feel lighter. There's all that shit that is stuck inside of me just comes out, and I see it. And sometimes I end the last page with loads of like, I am successful, I am abundant, I'm strong, I've got so much grit. And then sometimes I'm like, I hate everything, my life is hard, like, yeah. And then my self-care is, I said, of top importance to me. I love self-care. Possibly my creativity is, and I wrote down, the greatest thing I have ever had. And yeah, there were moments where I hated my creativity because I couldn't not follow it, which meant I had to make choices that took my life on a roller coaster, because artists, I don't think, do you ever feel safe? I don't know, but there's always this like, oh my God, will I survive? Will I make enough money? Will I? But then I think there's nothing else that I find joy in. Yes, I find different joys in different things, but the greatest joy that gives me the most meaning as a creature that feels and thinks and creates is the creativity, is the writing the music and the performing, and then telling stories through acting. So here I am at week 7. And then we've got a few more exercises. I know today's a long video, but I will just share a couple. There was a lot about childhood love. So she was like, wear your favorite item of clothing for no special occasion. And I did. And create a wonderful smell in your house, whether it's soup or incense or candles. Just self-care, just treat yourself. But I do that quite a lot anyways. So I was like, fun. And then she says, make this phrase a mantra. Treating myself like a precious object will make me strong. And it's true, she says, we tend to think being hard on ourselves is what makes us strong, but it's not. What about treating yourself like you're the most precious thing in the world? And I still don't know how to do that fully. And I'm like, what? Like, why don't I know how to do that? I love myself, but there's always room for more love. It's never really enough. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try and remember that. Treating myself like a precious object will make me strong. And then I did this thing. There's something about a collage to get some magazines and didn't just do this amazing collage, but I'm just not in that space yet to do that, but I will. I don't think I've ever done a collage, which I'm like, I want to do it. But the one I did was take yourself into a sacred space. I love sacred spaces. And allow yourself to savor the silence and healing solitude. I'm like, yes. I go sometimes to churches. I was raised Catholic. So I went to private school until I was 13. So there was a lot of holiness and religion embedded in my education. But, you know, my take on God is completely different now. I'm not really religious. I'm very spiritual, which is very different. But every now and again, I do go back to a church. And there's so many in London. I'm used to the Roman ones, but there's so many here as well. And I just go and I sit and I pray. And I don't really pray to Jesus or the God I was taught to pray to, but there's a sacred feeling, there's a holiness, I know I'm being listened to by someone up there, and I really need guidance and I really need counsel. And I've gone to churches in the last few years when I felt usually the saddest, when I needed something. And I went, was it yesterday? I was gonna go to a synagogue because I've never been to one, but I was like, I don't want to why didn't I go? I didn't want to risk being, because I don't know the rules, the moral rules about going into a synagogue. I didn't want to risk anything, so I just didn't go because I was feeling quite sad. But I went to a church, beautiful church near Sloane Square here in London, and I prayed and I cried and it was beautiful. So yeah, I've done that. She also says you could go to a large clock store or a great aquarium store. And I'm definitely gonna explore those next time. That's everything from me. Thank you for watching again, whenever you will and wherever you are. I love you. Somehow, even if I don't know you, I love you because I know that you are worthy of love. And so I do love you. Okay. Very well.